Have you ever tried to color white fur? Did it just not turn out quite right? What colors make up white anyway? Well, today I am going to quickly show you one way to color white fur. I'm using the ever popular Pan Pastels and Prismacolor pencils, and stick around to the end for a bonus tip to make the white fur really pop off the page. And if you're new here, I'm Lisa Marie. Welcome to my studio. I've been a professional artist for over a decade. I earned a master's in art history in Florence, Italy, while studying the Renaissance Masters, and today I am playing with the white fur in a custom pet portrait order. Real quick, before we get lost in layers of color, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the next video. Okay, so I already sketched out this beautiful dog, and now it's time to add color. Step one, as you can see, I add an underlayer of color in pastel in the shadows. I'm blocking out shadows in soft pastels. This is a delicate layer of colors in soft blues and browns. I dab the applicator on scrap paper to take off excess pigment. That way, the underlayer of color isn't too opaque. I don't want rich color in this underpainting. Why blues and browns? Because white fur can have a cool and warm element to the hue, even on the same animal. Cold colors are hues that give the feeling of coolness, such as blue, green, and pale purple. Warm colors, on the other hand, are those hues that give the feeling of warmth, such as red, orange, and yellow. Because this is a custom portrait, I have to be as accurate as possible in the coloring, and this dog has a fabulous mix of warm and cool tones. Part of this can be the dog's warm skin tone underneath, the natural hues in his fur, and also a reflection of the other colors around him. White is actually the absence of color. In other words, you can't really mix colors together to create white. Instead, we are adding colors, warm and cool, around the white to create a sense of depth, texture, and bring this dog to life. The final touch of color is red, but a soft, slight touch of red in the tongue and certain parts of the body that will have some rosy hues, like the tongue, ears, and tail. Red can steal the show, so use sparingly in white fur. After all that work adding the first layer of color, I'm going to get out my handy eraser and erase some of the color to maintain the texture. Luckily, Pan Pastels are erasable, so it's easy to take away a bit of color to keep that fur consistency and maintain the white quality in the dog's coloring. Remember, in white fur, we are adding color around the white. Gonna jump forward in time, skipping over the underlayer of green because that's not our focus today, and on to step 2, add layers of color pencil. So, Pan Pastel is erasable, and it plays well with color pencils. This is good because that's how we're going to develop our fur color and texture today. First, I go back to those shadows and block them out with traces of color, just like I did with the pastels. This helps to quickly create depth and map out the lighting of the dog. I often say coloring grayscale or realism is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Start with one dark color, one medium color, and one light color. You put the dark color over the darkest shadows, the medium color over the medium dark shadows, and the lightest color over the lightest area. After you have those 3 colors, you can expand your color palette with more colors to make it more interesting. Also, with white fur, remember the lightest hue is white. In this specific dog fur, I started with dark, medium, and light browns and added a very light blue called Cloud Blue. And I'll write all the colors in the video description for you so you can go there and reference the exact colors as well. I apply the color in small strokes or dashes of color in the direction the fur grows. The colors naturally blend together on the paper while I apply them in these quick dashes of color. The colors go from dark to medium to light, but to make sure I don't go too dark too fast, I am very gentle. I don't press hard on the pencil. That way I can always go back and add more layers of color to darken the shadows. It is very cyclical. I go in cycles, adding dashes of dark, medium, and light colors, slowly building up layers of color. Because the fur is white, I'll use more of the lighter colors than the darker colors throughout this cycle. The same concept of dark, medium, and light applies to the colors in the tongue, the eyes, and nose. And I'll take those pink tones and traces from the tongue and apply them to the fur as well, but just in certain areas that are naturally pink in the dog, around the mouth, nose, and ears. Side note, if you are interested in playing with these pastels and color pencils, I'll put the link to them in the video description for you. All right, step 3, add dark hues to those dark features, the eyes, mouth, and nose. We want these darker areas next to the white fur. Those dark colors will provide contrast to the white fur. White fur next to white paper doesn't really stand out. But with those rich, dark features, we're really going to differentiate the white or lighter hues against those shadowy colors. I'll even take traces of that darker coloring and put it in some of the darkest shadows in the fur. Remember, we need that contrast to help that white fur stand out. And I'll keep going back to add layers of the other colors in the fur, blending the colors on the paper. With white fur, slow and steady buildup of color is best. Step 4 is more blending, but this time we're going literal with a white pencil. This soft white pencil will blend all those under layers of color together. I'm applying it in dashes or strokes of color in the direction that the hair grows. So we're keeping the texture of the fur, but now we're getting a soft, nicely blended light feel. But after all that white softening, I will go back and push the darkest shadows with another layer of dark pencil and slight traces of the other colors as well. That contrast of dark and light and color versus no color is super important to help that white fur stand out. Step 5 is totally optional, the pens. If you like the soft, delicate fur look, then stick to the pastels and pencils. But this dog has fur that's a bit more crisp, so I needed to push that texture with a white pen. This is a Flymax paint marker. It goes on the paper super smooth and dries a bit transparent. If you want a thicker white layer, then you probably want a white gel pen. But I'll use the white marker to really push those white highlights and get a layer of white texture over all those lovely, delicate layers of color from the pencil. Remember, you don't have to do this step. I just have to because it's what the dog's fur looks like in a real life portrait that I'm drawing for this custom pet portrait. So I have to stay true to the model. Same with the eyes and nose. I will add traces of a dark black pen to the darkest feature to help them really stand out. This is a Jelly Roll black pen that I'm going to be using in the darker areas. Again, if you want the soft look of the pastels and pencils, you don't need to do this. The dog has really dark elements in his face, and I had to push the shadows and colors to get those dark features just right. So what do you think? Would you add crisp white highlights and dark black shadows with pens? Or do you prefer the softer white fur look without the pens? Leave a comment and let me know. And here is the bonus tip. Add shading or color around the dog to help the fur pop off the page visually. So we did all that work in the fur, but what you do around the fur matters too. I added more green around the dog. That's a major difference in hues and shadows. Again, contrast helps white stand out. Then I take my white marker, but you can use a white pencil as well, to go around the edges of the dog's fur, showing flyaway bits of fur or hair, adding to the edges more texture. Alright, so that was one way to color white fur, and I know some of you are saying that you want to go next level and really explore how to color realistic fur and other subjects. Luckily, I have a playlist for that. Go check out my playlist, How to Color Like a Pro. There's even a super fun video all about coloring realistic fur. I'll include links to all those in the video description for you as well. Because if there's one thing us artists love to do, it's try new coloring techniques and stay creative.